Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to speak about the bracha Barich Aleinu, which is the bracha Birkos Hashanim, and it's also the tefillah for parnasa, for wealth. It doesn't really sound like, when you read the words, it doesn't you don't necessarily get the impression firsthand that it's talking about the bracha for wealth, for livelihood, but it's the bracha is metaphor, and we're going to speak about that tonight. How exactly that's going on. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah, we mentioned this last week when we talked about the the bracha for health, for refuah to be healed. But the Gemara in Avodah Zarah says that if one wants to make a specific request for wealth, that they're having a particularly hard time, or they just feel a special need to make a request, they should add in a request during this bracha, the bracha of Barich Aleinu. So we're going to start with a few questions that hopefully we'll explain over the course of this year. Question one is that this bracha seems to be asking for rain and crops. So why would we make the request here in this specific tefillah to make the request for parnasa, for livelihood, for wealth? That's question number one. We already mentioned a little bit the metaphor, but we're explaining exactly how. Question number two is that the Gemara in Beitza Zion explains that Kol mizono sav shel adam klutim lo miras Hashanah v'ad Yom Kippurim, meaning that all the support, all the livelihood of a person is determined already from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur. Meaning, the extent that one's wealth or livelihood has been determined was already decided on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the term mizono sav, in that phrase, you say kol mizono sav, does not only refer to food, it refers to livelihood and support. I was listening to Rav Eli Stefanski do the Daf Yomi the other day, and he called on one of the people. He said, okay, mizono sav, that the husband needs to provide mizonos to his wife. And he said, what's mizonos? And the guy says, food. He says, no, it's not food. It means support. It means you gotta sustain the person in terms of money and everything that they need. It's not just food. But that's what the Gemara is saying, that it's all determined already in Rosh Hashanah. And that's why in Rosh Hashanah, in Kippur, we say the phrase mi ani, mi asher, who's gonna become poor, who's gonna become rich. But the question is, if one's livelihood is already determined in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, then what exactly are we accomplishing by asking 3 times a day for Kadosh Baruch Hu to support us and help us with the wealth? That's question 2. And then question number 3 is that on the Erev Rosh Hashanah, we still say this. We get to Mincha Erev Rosh Hashanah, it's almost the end of the year. We have a few more minutes left in the year, and we get to Shemona Esrei, and we still say Barich Aleinu Hashem Elokeinu Es Hashanah Hazos. Bless us, God, this year. Hashanah Hazos, this year. Give us wealth this year. So you've got around 7 minutes maybe left in your year. What exactly do you expect to happen in those 7 minutes to give you a lot of wealth? Unless you're asking to find a lottery ticket underneath your seat. I'm not sure exactly what the request is there, but what exactly are you requesting for in this bracha, especially saying it on Erev Rosh Hashanah? So those are a few questions, and hopefully we'll address them maybe the best we can. So we start with the first phrase, Barich Aleinu Hashem Elokeinu Es Hashanah Hazos, which means bless on our behalf, Hashem, our God, this year. Bless Hashanah Hazos this year. So we're going to explain it with Rav Shua, because I think he has a beautiful understanding of what exactly we're requesting in this bracha. He explains that we're not requesting to increase our wealth this year, meaning we're not asking, give me more money this year. That's not the request. Rather, what's the request? We're asking the Kadosh Baruch Hu to bless the efforts that we have made in earning a livelihood. Meaning, he says, he says, very nice. You looked at the beginning of the Gemara in Beitza, right? Where we talked with the Gemara, we said that all your whole livelihood is already predetermined on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, but keep reading. What does it say? Klutz me'otzas Shabbos, otzas Yom Tov, otzas banav v'talmud Torah. Meaning, besides, right? It's all predetermined Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Besides, for what the money that we spend on Shabbos money that we spend for Yontif, or the money that we spend to help our children learn Torah. So he explains that the predetermination of one's parnasa, of one's wealth, can, even though it's predetermined on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it can indeed be changed by the amount that one spends on Shabbos or Yontif or on Torah. That's how he explains it. So on a basic level, we're saying provide us sustenance, provide us support, livelihood, whatever word you want to throw in there. But on a deeper level, he doesn't say it explicitly, but I think this is really what he means, is that we're requesting that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're requesting to God, although our amount of livelihood was predetermined already. You wrote it down in a book. We're going to get X amount of money for this. We're telling God, look at the way we spent our money. Look what we've done with our money. What we've given money to. What we've chosen to spend our money with. And I think that you can also invoke the idea of Chazal. That Chazal tell us that give meiser. You should give a tenth of your money so that you become wealthy. They have a phrase, meiser, so that you heat asher, so that you become wealthy. And there's this idea about the mitzvah of meiser, giving 1/10 of your money, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us in the Navi, in Malachi, that Uvechanuni na bezos. Hashem tells us we can test him with this, and that's even quoted down in halacha. The Ramah and Shulchan Aruch, they say that you're not allowed to test God in halacha. You can't say, God, I'm going to do this, and if this happens, then I believe in you. If it doesn't happen, no. So you can never test God. But with this mitzvah, with the giving meiser, giving 1/10 of your money, God tells us this special mitzvah. You can test me. Give 1/10 of your money, and it's gonna create more money for you. We had a teacher in YU, Rabbi Daniel Rapp. He said, imagine you had an investment where you knew that every single time you invested in it, automatically you'd get 5 times the amount of money that you put in. He said that's what meiser is. That's what giving meiser is like. You already know it's going to happen. It's the safest investment in the world. That's how he explained it. But the point is, right? The point is we're asking God to look at our actions, to look at the way we spent the gifts that God gave us, and that should be a merit for an increased parnasa for us, even though it may, on a basic level, it may have already been predetermined on beforehand. We can actually increase that level by spending it properly. So that's how Rosh Hashanah explains it. Then we continue with the next phrase. The es culminates with salatova, and all of it. Oh, sorry. Just one more point is that Barich Aleinu. We're saying that in the first phrase we specifically say Barich Aleinu because sometimes there's a lot of bracha in the world, but it doesn't necessarily reach us. So we want to, we could have extra kavanah when you say that phrase, Barich Aleinu, bless us, and specifically that it indeed will reach us. So, and my father just texted, he gave me a direct message that in kindness, it says you can test Hashem with respect to tzedakah. That's the mitzvah that you can test God with. If you give tzedakah, then you should expect for your money to increase. And that's the one time you can test God in regard to mitzvahs. Anyways, we continue with the next phrase, and all of its various crops for our benefit. So what are these various crops? What is tfua? So the Budraham says tfua means that all the different fruits, we're requesting for all the different fruits to be blessed. The Rokeach says it means all 5 different types of grains. Okay, but Rosh Hashanah explains that tfua doesn't only mean crops, but it refers to all forms of production. It means all businesses, goods, services, tellers that we provide. We're requesting that be blessed. I think it's more than just the physical foods that we experience in our life. It's talking about our money, our goods and our services that we provide to others. That should be blessed as well. Retain talum matar li bracha or retain bracha depending what month you're in. Just not going to focus too much on the difference between those right now, but we say al panei ha'adamah, meaning on the face of the earth, meaning let there be enough food to feed all the hungry people in the world. That's a gift that we often take for granted, having enough food. And for much of Jewish history, it was certainly not a given. But we're saying let there be enough food for everyone to eat in the world. Additionally, right, it's if we're looking at food in this context as more than just food, but money in general, it's a request that the economy remain in good health as well. On the face of the earth, meaning let the economy be stable and be good. And then we say v'stabenu mituvecha, satiate us with your goodness. So again, this is everyone argues about this. Is it sabenu mituva, meaning from its goodness, or sabenu mituvecha, from your goodness, God? Okay, people fight about it. That's the way it goes. But regardless, we'll try to explain the message behind it. And either way you want to say it, I think you should probably just say whatever your sitter says. I remember one time we asked Rav Shechter in a Q&A, people say ba omer or la omer. Which one should we say? So he said, I just say whatever one the sitter says. Whatever one the sitter says, he says. Okay, so I think you could probably do the same thing over here, that whatever one your sitter says you could say, and I'm sure that's good. But let's try to understand the message behind it, so we can explain based on the psukim in Vayikra in 26:5. It says V'achal tem lach machem l'sova. And Rashi explains on that pasuk, Achol kmiya v'hu misbarach b'meyav, that it's a bracha that one who eats only a little, and that satiates him. The bracha there is that even a little bit of food will be enough to satisfy us. That's what the bracha in Vayikra is explaining. And as on the other hand, the Gemara in Sota Memtes, you just saw in Daf Yomi or Sanhedrin, Zayin, tells us that before Mashiach comes, there's going to be so much greed that there'll be a lot of grape crops, and still the wine produce will demand, the people who produce the wine will demand high prices for it. And they would rather waste it than sell it cheaply. People have a huge appetite for riches, which will never be satiated. And so, today, despite the fact that, just looking at the world today, despite the fact that the world overproduces food, Schwab explaining this is not my insight. Schwab that he says, despite the fact that the world overproduces food, millions of people are still starving. That if it would not be for the greed, all the food in the world would be properly distributed among the population, and everybody would have enough to eat. But since the Tov Hashem, right, from your goodness, Hashem, since the Tov Hashem is missing, people are never satisfied, and they can't get enough. And that's why people are still hungry in this world. And so what does that mean for us? What are we requesting here? The request is satiate us, God, with your goodness. Give us enough food and money and possessions for our needs, and give us the feeling of being satisfied, which will get rid of our feelings of greed and lust for more and more. It's a not only a bracha that we need to have enough food, but also, it's probably even more, I don't know if I want to say more important or equally important to the bracha to be able to be satiated with the food, to be satisfied with what we have. There's the famous saying of Chazal that Oev Kesev lo yispalo Kesev, that someone who loves money is never going to have enough money. He's always going to want more and more and more. He's never going to be able to be satisfied. So in this bracha, in this phrase specifically, we're asking to be satisfied with that which we have, which is an incredibly important thing and a bracha that we need. The other thing I was thinking that I want to mention this here, that how come, if this bracha is really, it's not only, it's a little bit about food, but it's more about, generally parnasa, it's about wealth, being satiated with being supported with what we have a livelihood. Why didn't the authors of this tefillah just say it like that? The Hebrew language is vast. They have lots of different words for everything. They didn't have to say food. They could have said something else. So this is my answer. This is what I was thinking. That throughout the history of the world, their markets, economies, they change, but throughout time, everyone will always understand the need for food. Think about a baby, for example. Baby has no idea what money is. They don't understand that concept. Then it takes a child a while to understand what money is. But food, that's one of the only things the baby understands. Baby knows when it needs food. Baby knows when it's hungry. It knows the that it's good to eat. So that's pretty much all a baby understands. Give me food, right? So perhaps the tefillah was written by specifically mentioning food because it's the best representation of the human need to be satisfied. Food, that's something which we can always understand. That's what I was thinking. Anyways, that we continue with the rest of the tefillah. Bless our year, bless our year, this year, we're talking about this year in specific, as a good year. Kashanim hatovos, as the good years. So this is a question I've had for a long time. What are the shanim hatovos, the good years? It's like, are we talking about the good old years? The good old days. I remember one time when I was in fifth grade, and we had a test, and they said, when did the Statue of Liberty get to America? And I wrote down the good old days. The teacher did not like that answer. I got an X on that question, but I remember that. So I'm saying, when, what are the shanim hatovos? What are the good years? What are we talking about here? So I saw three answers. I don't know if any of them, have to speak to me in specific, but they're all good. They're all good answers, I think. The Rokeach says it's talking about the years of Elisha. Then in the years of Elisha, there was a miracle that happened where they increased the oil from a little bit of oil to a lot of oil. We see Hillel has a nice answer. It's a reference to Paro's dream. What do you mean?
Like the 7 good years and the 7 bad years, that there's always going to be kind of coupled together.
You mean in as referring specifically to Paro's years, or like our years that
our years, that there's always, like, you always have to prepare for the 7 bad cows years.
Oh, very nice. That's a good shot. Okay, beautiful, Hill. Thank you. So we have 2 shots. We have the years of Elisha. We have the years of, sort of a reference is Hill's nice answer. Reference to 7 good years, like Paro. Sometimes we have better years. Sometimes we have worse years in this world. The Seder Hayom has another answer. He says that it means the years that Yitzchak Avinu was blessed with, because Yitzchak Avinu, when he planted, everything grew, and there was he also found 100 wells. So that's what he says. The first years of Yitzchak Avinu. Okay, nice answer. And then with Shrav has another answer that he says it refers to the days to come, the future years, that the Navi Yoel described very much in chapter 2, that there are going to be days where there's going to be grain, wine, oil, and everyone's going to be satiated from it. They're not just going to have plenty, but they're going to also be satiated from this produce, and that's what he explains are the shanim hatovos. Either way, just think about good years when or time where I think maybe this is what Hillel's answer is probably most practical. Think about also times, years where you had plenty, and not only you had plenty, but it's maybe a combination of Hillel's answer and Schwab's answer, where the years where you had plenty, but also that you were satisfied with what you had, and that was a beautiful bracha. And then finally, the last phrase, Baruch Atah Hashem Mivarech Hashem, blessed are you Hashem, who blesses the years. And again, this is said. We keep mentioning this, but that's because it's important that it's said again, Mivarech Hashem, in the present tense, meaning it's said with emunah, to the belief that Hashem indeed will bless this year and future years as well. So just to summarize, we spoke about how this bracha is not just a bracha for food, but it's a bracha for parnas. It's a bracha for wealth. And we mentioned the idea that although our wealth is predetermined already on Rosh Hashanah, but if we spend it right, if we spend it on things which are things that Shabbos, Yontif, Tzedakah, then in a way we're asking God to look at the way we spend the gifts that He gives us, and that should be a merit for us to increase our wealth. Then we mentioned that we should be satiated, we should be satisfied with that which we have, because if we're not satisfied, it will never be enough, and that too is a bracha. And finally, just to conclude with this, that in Koheles it says lo lachachamim lechem, that Koheles explains that one's livelihood is not based on his intelligence, meaning as great as we think we are, we think that we're in control. If we get this good job, if we get this, then we're going to have everything we need. We're going to be able to support ourselves. So Koheles tells us, Shlomo Melech, he says that it's not based on our own intelligence. We don't control how much lechem, right? Lechem means bread, but again, this means more than just bread. It means our sustenance. It means our wealth. It means everything that we have and that we need. It's not based on our wisdom. It's all a gift from God, and we have to remember that. And that's what we're doing, and we're asking for God in this tefillah.